Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Magic Math. Today's episode is on fractions. All right, let's start where everything good starts, at the number 1. Now, 1 is a very, very, very interesting number, and if we're talking about fractions, then 1 is exceptionally important. See, in between 0 and 1, in between this little point, there are an infinite number of what we call decimal numbers. Decimal numbers are in between 0 and 1 for now. There are decimal numbers that exceed later, but in between these really, really whole numbers, 0, 1, and we have 2, and we have 3, and so on, continuing, there are decimal numbers within here, in between our big whole numbers. So let's focus in between 0 and 1. So in between 0 and 1, we have 0.1, 0.1 to be exact. Then 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and then we have 1.0 to be exact. So all of these are decimal numbers, and it's important to identify what decimals are to understand fractions. So what fractions are basically these decimal numbers. Let's take 0.5 for instance. Now 0.5, that's important because it's right in between 0 and 1. So it's right here, 0.5, right in the middle. So 0.5, you can translate that into a fraction. Because it's the half, these two have to be equal to 1. So 0.5 is equal to 1/2, like that. And not all fractions are very simple like that, but we could take it just like that, and that's 0.5 is 1/2. You only have to focus on the fraction for now. So what this means is that 2, just like this, we have, that's 1/2, we have the other half. So this is 1/2, and this is 1/2. Both of them together is gonna get you 1. So 2/2 is equal to 1. Very, 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 very easy, simple stuff. But the more and more complex we get, the more and more difficult it's going to be. Let's try 1/3. This time we have not 1, 2, and 3/3. Now we have 3/3 that are equal to 1. So all these fractions are, all of these 1/whatevers, all of these are just the numbers that are in between 1 and 0. That's all fractions are. And you can go from 1/2 to or 1/2 to 1/3, 1/4. It gets more and more and more and more and more complex, and more very, very precise the more you get into it. And that's basically what fractions are. They are the numbers in between 0 and 1. If we take a look at this magically, we can see we have 1 string in total. All together like that, we have 1 string in total. One side's red and one side's blue to represent 1/2 on one end, 1/2 on the other. And they both got ends just like that, joining them in the middle with no painted right there, okay? Now the string represents one whole. So we take that string in the middle and we cut it just like so. Now we have two individual strings. That represents the two halves that you can put together to make one. But if we take that and we put that in my little palm right there, just like so. Now it's covering it, just like so. If you do a little bit of a magic, you can take that and slide it all the way off to reveal that two halves make one whole. You're probably asking what happens when we add fractions together. Well, that's where things get interesting. So I told you back earlier that two halves make a whole, right? And that looks like this. 1/2 plus 1/2 is equal to 1. And I'll tell you why that is. So if we add 1 plus 1, that equals 2. And these are called denominators. We don't mess with these. We don't mess with those unless they're different. And we'll just hold on to that thought. So we have 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. And denominators, we don't touch them. So that is going to be the same. Okay, so if we go back to our division video, 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. And that's how adding fractions are, that's how it's done. So this time let's subtract fractions. So let's take, dot that off. Let's take 2/3 and subtract it by 1/3. And what does that give us? Well, we take 2 minus 1. That's gonna give us 1. And we don't touch those denominators unless they're different. We keep that there in the bottom. So 2 take away 1/3 is gonna be equal to 1/3. So the rule that we want to focus here, don't touch denominators. Okay, we do not want to touch these bottom numbers. These ones right here, this one, this one, this one, this one. Not yet. Unless they're different, we don't want to touch them. Sound good? Sound good. Okay, let's go on to multiplying fractions. Now this time, when you divide and when you multiply is when you can kind of not really think too hard. So let's take 1/2 and multiply it by 1/3. Now this is a little weird. How are we gonna do it? I'll show you how. So remember when I said in adding and subtracting we don't want to touch these denominators? Well, we can in multiplication. If we go back to our multiplication video, we know 1 times 1 is equal to 1. And you're probably gonna say, wait, touch those denominators. You said so, right? Wrong. In multiplication and dividing, you can touch these. Check this out. 2 times 3 is 6. So we can touch the denominators when you're multiplying and when dividing. That is what's the cool part about these fractions. Yes. So 1/2 multiplied by 1/3 is gonna give us 1/6. Let's go on to dividing. So let's do the same thing. We have 1/2 divided by 1/3. Now, there's this very special rule that you guys need to remember. It's called keep, change, flip. Almost looks like KFC, but it's KCF, okay? It stands for keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. Okay, this is very important. It's the only way you're gonna be able to do multiplication. So, how this works is keep, change, flip. When you're faced with a problem where you have to divide fractions, you keep this first fraction the same. You change the division to a multiplication, and you flip the numerator, this top number, and the denominator. Okay? So we started out with 1/2 divided by 1/3. We translate it using the keep, change, flip, and now we keep the first fraction the same. We change this division to multiplication, and we flip the numerator and the denominator like this. Now, we're just stuck with a normal multiplication problem again. This makes it easy. 1 times 3 equal to 3 over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now, we're left with this, 3 over 2, 3/2. Now, this is what we call an improper fraction. Improper fractions are fractions that are improper. But what this means is you can simplify it. We do this thing called simplify. So, kind of like how you get a remainder when you divide long ways. We take 3, divide it by 2, and we get 1, and what we have left is a 1/2. Just like that. That is going to be our mixed fraction. So, what did we learn? We go back. Fractions are the area in which the numbers between 0 and 1. This in between here, okay? Then we did adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting, you do not touch the denominator. Do not touch it. And then we did multiplying and dividing. You multiplying, dividing, you can touch the denominator. It's all you want. So we did. It just works just like normal, and make sure you have that little fraction line in between, just like that. It travels through the entire problem. Remember that. And in dividing, you use that keep, change, flip. Keep the original fraction, the first fraction the same, change the sign, and flip the numerator and the denominator. That, ladies and gentlemen, is fractions. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.